I will share about one anecdote from Austin with y'all. My family's from Louisiana, so I can say y'all, okay?
Yeah, but it was really in the spirit there.
Yeah. Howdy, y'all. I'm the Dragon Reborn. That wasn't a very good accent. I feel like I'm sorry, but that
just gave me, like, the vivid image of Rand in a cowboy hat when he says that, and cowboy boots, which, like, both undermined and completely transcended his power as a character.
Just like a white shirt tucked into starched jeans.
Yeah, one of those bolo ties.
Yeah. His bolo tie is like a little dragon.
Oh my god.
And then he's like, howdy, y'all.
Howdy, y'all. I'm the Dragon Reborn.
My southern accent is usually okay, but for some reason I'm just not hitting it today.
I mean, yeah, you have family with a southern accent.
Yeah, I'll get my mom on air.
Just say, howdy, y'all, I'm the Dragon Reborn. Okay, what's your anecdote?
Oh, my anecdote is that we went to the Texas state capitol, which was actually really cool. I really like going to state capitals.
Yeah, it's pretty
cool. I think the buildings are always really interesting. The Louisiana state capitol is really cool. We went to this Texas state capitol and we took a tour, and like the chandeliers in the house, like the representatives in like the legislative room, there are these like chandeliers, and the light bulbs on them are in the shapes of the letters Texas, and it like goes around the middle of the chandelier. And I was like, oh, those must be like recent. And the tour guide was like, oh no, they're from like 18 something. Like they have been hanging there forever.
It just goes to show Texas has been Texas since pretty much the day it became a state.
Yeah.
And Florida...
Actually, a nation first and then a state.
Florida has been Florida. We all just have our same energies.
Yeah.
Washington has been full of hippies since Lewis and Clark set foot there.
I mean, Lewis and Clark.
Total hippies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was just like
hippies.
The most iconic Texas energy, just embodied in these like 4 chandeliers. I was
good for them, I say.
I know Texas is so weird
Powerful
about being
lighting.
Texas.
Yeah.
I know Brie and I were cracking up the entire time.
Okay, well.
Anyway, welcome to our podcast that's not about Texas.
It should be, though, in some ways. This is Everybody Hates Rand.
Oh, your friendly neighborhood Wheel of Time podcast.
Sorry, I don't give you any
pointed at me and I was
beforehand.
Like, Sally Goodger? My name? I was confused.
Who am I?
I don't know.
I'm Jean Valjean. I'm Emily Juchon, not Jean Valjean, unfortunately.
Dang, if my co-host was Jean Valjean.
You'd have nothing to talk about because Jean Valjean would know nothing.
I know, it would be amazing.
Is he even literate? Not to cast aspersions, but...
Oh my god. I'm sorry. One more Texas anecdote.
We went to an illiterate person.
We went to the Texas State History Museum. Texas is weird. We went to the Texas State History Museum.
I can't believe all this is in Austin.
I know, because Austin's the capital of Texas.
But that just doesn't make sense to me. I'm Houston.
I know, or Dallas.
Or Dallas.
I know, Austin is not the first city I think of when I think of Texas.
It's the third.
Anyway, we went, there was a World War II exhibit in the Texas State History Museum, which was one of their traveling exhibits, and I guess they just this year they're doing World War I in Texas. It's weird, but there was this hilarious replica of the tests they used to give draftees to decide if they were literate.
Oh no.
It was so funny. It was on one side it was the instructions, and the other side was a bunch of shapes. It was Kate, when I say go, draw a cross in the part of the triangle that isn't intersecting with the square. Or, draw this squiggly line over these certain number of circles. It was, batshit crazy.
It's man, I wish that was what standardized testing looked like nowadays.
It was really hilarious.
I'd pass with flying colors. But okay, we didn't even finish our introduction. That is Sally Goodger.
That's me. I'm Sally Goodger. Over there's Emily Juchon. This is our podcast.
Here we are. We're sorry for the weird energy. One of us is sick, and I have had cumulatively 8 hours of sleep in the last 2 days.
Okay, anyway.
Fuck.
Wheel of Time.
Wheel of
is
Time.
the book series that we're talking about.
Yeah, and specifically we're here to talk about our best boy, Matt Cathon, who finally is a character again.
I know.
He's just been an omnipresent. Speaking of literacy, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is confusing. Can Matt read? Always the question.
I have to give him a test.
Okay, we pick up with Edwene as she and the other gals are being escorted down to watch Matt's healing, which of course is taking place in a creepy basement because the Aes Sedai are just all about those aesthetics.
Yeah,
they're
truly.
This is truly the creepiest thing we've done in a while, so we might as well do it in a lightless dungeon.
Might as well do it in the dungeon.
Edwine's oh my god, a dark friend's gonna pop out at any moment, and then screams, and Shiriam's are you okay? And Edwine's I'm just worried about the Black Aja, and Shiriam's you don't have to worry about them now. And Shiriam's inner voice is but I am the Black Aja.
You have to worry about me.
But I am the Black Aja, bitch.
A bagel.
A bagel. Two bagels. So then they go to this room where Matt is, like, laid out on a table, which includes a tablecloth, by the way. I did pick up on that detail. They were like, we're not just going to lay him on a cold table, surgical table. We're going to give him a little sheet.
The other detail I really loved was in Edwina's, like, he's fully clothed except for coat and boots. And I was like...
Yeah, it's like, what mystery happened where they took off his shoes and his coat?
And I was just like that point where Robert's like, he's not naked, but he doesn't have his shoes on.
Which is hilarious because in the next chapter, it takes you the full chapter to find out that Matt is wandering around naked. Until Lanfear comes in and is like, hello, and he's like, oh, I'm naked.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
so it's like, who disrobed Matt?
Yeah. Ooh, I don't like to think about that.
Exactly.
What poor Aes Sedai.
Just, like, stop.
Was
like,
it
why
Leanne?
couldn't they have left him in his clothes?
Leanne's like, okay, I guess I'll strip this skinny boy now. Very worried about Matt's weight, by the way. Just his entire BMI.
I know, he weighs, like, 80 pounds, and it's all bones.
Yeah. And I'm like, hello?
Yeah,
Are you okay?
It's very frightening.
Anyway, there's, like, a bunch of Aes Sedai present, including about half of whom we've met before and will be important, but they're not important right now, so I'm just going to skim right over them. And Swan whips out the, most powerful sangreal that the tower has. Of course, it's shaped like a phallus.
And a wand.
Yeah.
I mean, of course it's a phallus. Let's get that out of the way. Dick.
Sorry,
Power.
I just was having a whole, reimagining of Harry Potter where instead of wands, they're, dildo-shaped. And I was like, strangely powerful.
Yeah. Hermione just whips out her vibrating dildo and is like,
Avada
Kedavra, bitch. Well, as you guys know, Harry Potter was very kinky.
Yeah.
Did you read all the tweets?
No.
Oh my god, you guys are so funny.
All the tweets?
After J.K. Rowling was like...
They had an intense sexual relationship. Oh yeah, and everyone
would be like...
Here's the other intense sexual stuff that's happening in Hogwarts.
My favorite one was a child was like, I love Hagrid, and J.K. Rowling's like, I regret to inform you he died of autoerotic asphyxiation in a Bangkok hotel room. And I laughed about that for about 5 days.
Yeah, I literally almost choked on my tea, so thank you for that.
Anyway, yes, it is a phallus because duh.
Because duh, power is phallic.
It's dicks. But it is also a wand, which is interesting because it's like... Traditionally, that's the instrument of magic.
Yeah, and it's also fun because they're not pointing it. Swan holds it out in front of her, just straight, which is kind of an interesting visual. It also always, confuses me that they, this group of women links up in terms of actually, sharing the power, which we won't get to experience from any of our points of view for, a few books. But... it's I'm always imagining them holding hands, but they're not.
Yeah.
They're all just, standing there, and their connection is totally visible only to people like Edwina and Nynaeve and Elaine, who can sense what's going on.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're we have 10 of us here, and we are all going, full throttle, whatever. Plus, we have the nitro, which is this sangreal.
The nitro.
Yeah. What's that stuff in Fast and the Furious?
Is it Nas?
The Nas?
Is it? Oh god, I don't
know. Nas is a rapper.
Oh, you're right. What's the Fast and the Furious go juice? Text Lee, she'll know.
I know she'll know, but how fast can she respond?
If I Google Fast and Furious go juice. NOS, nitrous oxide systems.
Oh, NOS with an O.
Yeah, sorry, not a Z.
No, I mean who could
NOS.
Who could have known that? NOS and Nas, the rapper.
Yeah.
Who has that whole song about loving your mom or something. So anyway, they're channeling a whole lot, and Nynaeve's like, shit, I couldn't even handle half of that. And then everyone's like, but you could handle half of that, my dude. That's a lot.
Yeah.
And they're like, damn, if we tried to do that, we would have died.
Yeah.
And they're also like, hey, this is really addictive shit, this magic stuff, so I really want to, join up with that. And they have to physically hold themselves back from doing it, which is just kind of, an interesting aspect of channeling, that it's addictive.
Yeah.
And I guess, I'm sure we've talked about that before, how magic is often an addictive system.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. We'll get into that later, maybe.
It's this whole idea of, power can't come without a cost.
Yeah.
Ever. And with magic systems, that usually has, a physical cost. With, you think of the Ring in Lord of the Rings, which is perhaps our most famous example of addictive
magic
power.
Yeah.
Where it, Yeah, it takes a physical toll on your body, this, like, addiction to the ring. Like, Gollum obviously wastes away.
Ugh.
Anyway, just interesting.
Do you ever think about how my interpretation of Gollum is completely dependent upon Peter Jackson's interpretation of Gollum?
Yeah.
Which is just, like, interesting. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't read the books recently, but...
It's been 2 years or some change since I've read them. And I think I need a little bit longer. But I'd be interested because I read them when I was, like, 17.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, no critical thought, basically. I was
Yeah.
more on. Then I read them, like, very guided with an instructor. So, of course, a lot of my thoughts were his thoughts. And so now I'm like,
Now I need to read it for myself.
Yeah. We talked about that a lot in our class, though, is that, like, the Lord of the Rings adaptations are so prevalent that they've, like, taken up, sort of, occupied people's minds a little bit.
Right.
Which is interesting. So.
Anyway, the healing of Matt, we totally don't know, like, what's logistically going on. We are just seeing Matt's reaction to it and kind of everyone else's. There's just a lot of power being channeled all at once. And Matt kind of has this really, like, grotesque exorcism-like reaction to this, where his body kind of starts bending at this unnatural angle.
Yeah, he
talks about, he just, like, tense, kind of, like, only his head and heels are on the floor, which, I don't know, theoretically I could do that, I guess, but it wouldn't be fun.
No.
Especially because he isn't wearing shoes. His poor little heels.
His toes.
Yeah. And he just, like, starts screaming in the old tongue, which is just sort of classic Matt anyway, but Edwene can interpret some of it, and she talks about how it kind of feels like deja vu, and it's just, like, this cultural memory that I always find so interesting about Matt and Edwene in particular.
Yeah.
Which, obviously, Matt has a slightly better grasp on, but Edwene does too. And I'm a little bit sad because I feel like it slips away from Edwene as she goes on her many side quests.
Yes, takes on many identities.
Yeah, but with Matt, it's kind of like, this is going to be reformed into his whole, like, battle stuff.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, of course, that he's then yelling battle cries, because it's like, I don't know, like, why... Matt, it's tempting to think that Matt is who he is in terms of battle and his relationship to warfare and battle because of the memories that he's given, but there's a definite, like, there's a definite link there to begin with.
Yeah, no, I remember thinking that when I was reading it. In my recollection, it's like, oh, Matt becomes linked to warfare after Ruidaean specifically. Yeah. And so it was really surprising in this reread to be like, oh, no, there's, like, a foundation for that.
Yeah, he kind of is constantly, like, spouting battle cries from Manetheren, and it's just, like, sort of a precursor to the macrocosm of what happens to him in Ruidaean.
Yeah.
And it's just, like, really interesting, because you don't really think of Matt as an aggressive figure.
Yeah.
He's just, like, a very sly, shadowy figure, I guess, and so it's interesting that warfare is his connection.
Yeah.
Like, you'd expect that to belong to Perrin or Rand, I guess.
Yeah. No, it's interesting to have that, like, logical side of warfare in that. That's all, like, it's really cerebral, I guess, maybe more than logical.
Yeah.
And Matt is a very logical character.
Matt is also the most average-looking character, we're told, basically. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of interesting that, I don't know, Robert Jordan, you always have to remember, was a war veteran, so probably his experience was, it's just a bunch of these average guys.
Yeah.
Who some of them happen to have really powerful brains that they're applying to each situation.
Yeah.
And that's Matt.
It's interesting that you brought up the link, like, that it was, like, an exorcism, because, of course, that is what it is on, like, an obvious level, but to me, when I was reading it, I was so, like, we talked a couple episodes ago about how, like, Matt has kind of a weird Frankenstein narrative.
Yeah.
And I was really taken in this reread. Of course, I'm always thinking about Frankenstein, but it also has a lot of that imagery, too, like the table and the way that his body moves, and, like, the blinding light that causes him to be sort of, like, reborn.
Yeah, and his, like, kind of collapse as though dead afterward.
Yeah.
It's all just, and then his sort of reanimation sequence of when he wakes up.
Yeah, like this entire reanimation sequence is about building muscle and putting his body back together.
Yes. Yeah. God, it's so interesting.
Yeah, Matt's just got, like, a lot of weird things going on symbolically and in terms of, like, archetypes and motifs in these 2 chapters alone. It's very interesting.
Yeah, and it's interesting, too, because, I don't know, you have this thing that's happening in his head with his memories, and there's this piecing together that's happening immediately as he wakes up and then throughout the next books. And the same thing is happening to his body and and you kind of I don't know, I sort of missed that immediate connection, that parallel the first few times I read it, but...
Yeah.
And I kind of wish that the stuff with his body continued on for a little while, because it's interesting that he, you know, kind of instantly gains his weight back and looks normal.
Yeah.
But it would be also interesting if he was running around blowing up the Stone of Tears, still kind of looking skeletal.
Yeah, a little sickly.
And everyone's like, ooh, who's this sickly boy? And it takes him a little while to come back to himself.
It's interesting. We talked in the first episode about how The Dragon Reborn is a really traumatized narrative, and how, like, Matt's sort of introduction to the narrative is, like, really indicative of that. Because his entire body is going through an extreme trauma. His memory is going through an extreme trauma.
I had a really weird experience or funny thing where I got to Matt's chapter where he wakes up and it's his first point of view, which the only other thing that happens with Edwene is they get sent off to the kitchens.
Oh, yeah, we have to have a moment of silence.
Oh, sorry, do we? For, who was it for again?
Just for Matt finally entering the narrative.
Yeah, okay, I'm ready.
Okay, starting now. Okay, I don't know actually how long that was. I was going for 10 seconds. I think it was 5.
Yeah, we'll end up...
I know we said a full minute, but I don't think I could look at Emily for a full minute without laughing, so...
yeah, I would make really mean faces.
No, Emily bullies me facially.
Oh. Emily bullies me facially.
Yeah.
Title of my biography. Don't choke.
Steve made me really sweaty.
Aww. Edwene and the girls are like, is Matt okay? And Swan's like, fuck you. And sends
basically.
them off to the kitchens. And then Matt wakes up, and I, reading this, kind of thought to myself, what if this series picked up in this sequence? And, like, how confused would I be? And how interesting would it be? Because that's the only pure way you can actually understand what Matt's feeling right now.
Yeah.
Would be to not have read anything before and then just to pick up then.
Yeah.
It's enough to make me want to, like, have a child, raise that child, and then when they're of age, be like, all right, here's the Wheel of Time series. You're going to start in book 3 on this chapter.
Right here.
Tell me what you think.
Interesting social experiment.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll make one of my friends do it.
Ooh, that's fun.
Maybe I'll make Kylie do it.
Ooh.
Because Kylie's actually a smart reader, so I think it would be interesting.
Yeah, it is just so interesting. And, like, how much... I don't know. It's all fascinating.
Yeah, no, I really would, like, adaptation in its best form, like, takes the essence of a text, of course, and, like, elevates it in a different medium. Mm-hmm. And so it would be so interesting if an adaptation was just, like, first 2 books.
Gone, yeah.
Was starting here. And, of course, like, after we've talked about the first 2 books, like, there's a lot of merit in them, and, like, interesting things are happening, but in the service of, like, the entire story... It'd be really fascinating.
Well, I'm becoming more and more, like, a fanatic of the fact that they would work so much better as flashbacks. Mm-hmm. Like, in terms of actual, reading doesn't really operate that way, you know? It's hard to have flashback sequences, which we can talk about in a minute, because Matt has a flashback sequence to, I don't know, one of his other lives. His weird shared cultural memory.
Yeah.
But... you know, in terms of viewing and maybe in some other forms, like Wheel of Time would work best on a perhaps non-linear narrative.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, especially because, you know, time's a wheel and it would be interesting to play with that.
Yeah, like, that's what happens when you take, structure and plot. Yeah. And they're thematically intertwined. Mm-hmm. I think there's a term for that. I didn't get a literary degree. Who the fuck does that?
Yeah, so what I'm saying is I want Wheel of Time to start with Matt opening his eyes.
God, that would be so...
And everyone's like, why does this boy look so sickly?
What the fuck happened to this boy? No, that'd be so good, because you're right. Flashbacks in books just never... Like, I love me a series or a movie that uses a good flashback, but it is something that is basically, like, exclusively a visual thing.
Yeah, and it's just, like... something fun to play with. I don't know. I've been watching, I watched The Magicians, which overall is a terrible series and I don't recommend, but around season 3 they had a couple of really good episodes, and one involved one of the characters dying, but when he died he was astral projecting, because that's a thing he specifically can do.
Interesting.
Whatever, so he's basically a ghost.
Nice.
And no one can see him. And so the entire structure of the episode, then, instead of just flitting between different characters' side quests, is just him trying to get someone to notice him of the, like, 6 other characters.
Wow.
And, like, kind of dealing with the fact that they have to handle his body, which is dead. And they're like, what are we going to do with it? How do we handle this? And he's just like, hello, I'm still here.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just really interesting. You can do such fun things with structure and points of view. And, I mean, it takes texts like Wheel of Time that do it the most straightforward way possible to maybe understand how that could be done.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. Just some fun things to play with.
Because then there are books like Dune, apparently, that just does point of view too.
I know.
Tragically.
Sort of where I am, they've melded into doing
sorry,
chapter points of view, but it's still, like, in the beginning there, it was a total mess. Anyway, Matt wakes up and is like, where am I? Where the fuck am I?
Well, he looks immediately at the leaves on the canopy of his bed and is like, must be someplace rich.
I know, Matt is so funny.
I love him.
Matt's entire, like, these first 2 chapters are just, like, assessing the wealth of things.
I know.
And I know that plays into his whole trope as, like, god of wealth.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of he is, I think, canonically the most... wealth is the most accessible to him. Mm-hmm. It's just like snap of his fingers and he can get it, basically. Yeah. Like wealth in its cash form rather than, Rand, who kind of has wealth in the form of capital and power. But, God of wealth stuff, and also he's dealing with God of underworld stuff, and just, it's really interesting. He's also got these, like, weird scavenger magpie tendencies of, like,
love
I see
shiny
something
things.
shiny, I see something wealthy, I want it. Mm-hmm. He, as he's going through his belongings, pulls out these weird things he's magpied. He's like, here's a fun feather and a fun rock that I found.
He's like, I like the colors.
I like the colors of this rock. And I'm like, Matt, you literal lunatic.
No, Matt is such a disaster boy.
I know, and it's also just, like, kind of sweet. Cause it's
I know,
such,
because
like, a
I do
boy
that.
thing to do, yeah.
I mean, I'm also a little boy at
No,
heart,
yeah,
though,
it's just, like, it's just such a childlike thing to do. Mm-hmm. That some people, like, preserve well into their adulthoods. And it's just, like, Matt has these strange childlike tendencies at times.
Kind of a whimsy about him.
Yeah, he is. He's a little, like, fairy king.
Very fey.
Yeah, he is. But he wakes up and is like, okay, I gotta set about investigating my surroundings. First, he has this creepy war flashback.
Yeah.
Which, I was thinking, I think Matt has the largest accumulation of flashback scenes. For some weird reason, perhaps to do with his memory as a theme. He has a lot of flashback sequences, and there are also flashbacks of battle sequences. I think he has this one. He has one in the next book, kind of around that time when a bunch of Trollocs attack the Stone of Tyr. Mm-hmm. And it's through Rand's point of view, but later we get a flashback through Matt's point of view. And I think there's a flashback when he kills Couladin.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, so it's just like, Matt has a lot of weird flashback. Yeah. Only viewing trauma through the lens of the past. Mm-hmm. Which is just, I don't know.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. What is it with Matt and, like, violent trauma? And I don't know. I don't know anything.
I'm worried about him, is what I do know.
I wonder if it's because, like, whenever you see an italicized scene, it's, like a flashback. It's kind of like to sort of crystallize the effect of his own memories. You know, like, this memory of Matt's could one day be someone else's. In a way. I don't, like, that might be giving Robert Jordan too much credit, but...
No, but I love the idea, just like what you said, crystallize the effect that italics can... you say the coolest things.
Okay.
Crystallize the effect of his memories. God, Emily, that was rad.
Well, so Matt's wandering around naked, apparently.
Hero.
And is like, looks outside. I also thought it was daytime in this scene, and it was only in this read-through that I was like, oh, it's nighttime.
Oh.
And that was confusing to me. Yeah. Anyway, he's like, well, I'm high up. That's a city. I know Edwina and Nynaeve bring me to Tar-Valon. Guess I'm in the White Tower, which fucking sucks.
Yeah, he's like, fuck me, right?
He's like...
That's like third thought. He's like, fuck me.
Honestly. He also talks to himself so much.
I know, which was really tender.
Why is Matt the character who is constantly in conversation with himself?
I really loved it. It was really jarring in this chapter.
Yeah.
Because it's, like, not something you've experienced before, of course, because Matt is, like, a total blank slate.
Yeah, but then, as you get into more Matt point of views, it's just like he does this all the time.
Yeah,
he mutters to himself. It's just so funny and weird.
I love him. Fucking weirdo.
Like, why does he talk
Also,
to
the
himself?
entire time this is happening, Matt is just, like, has unhinged his jaw and is eating.
He, like, unveils
Constantly.
this plate of food, and he's like, there's a fuck ton of food here. I
Yeah.
can't possibly eat this. And 3 paragraphs later, he's like, whoa, I ate all of that.
Yeah.
Which is, like, constantly interspersed with him shoving shit in his mouth.
While he's just, like, talking to himself.
He's
So I
like
assume
beef.
he's, like, talking with his mouth full.
He's, like, mouth
some
full,
goblin.
gazing into the distance,
Yeah.
discoursing with himself.
Like, what a wild scene!
And humming to himself.
Yeah.
And, like...
Which would make it the funniest opening scene of any show.
I know.
If this naked boy is just like...
You're like, here's this absolute bizarre kid
Yeah.
running around buck naked, fucking talking to himself, being like, seeing little dollar signs everywhere he goes.
Yeah.
And then you, like, cut to Edgelord Rand, who's, like, Game of Thrones distilled into one person, you know? He's just like, blah, 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 angst, and it's, like, cut back to Matt.
And he's like...
Who is cartoonishly doing the most nonsensical
Yeah,
things.
looking at his pretty rock.
He's like, ooh, my pretty rock.
Ooh, I forgot about that. How nice.
Anyway, he's
And
just
his
like...
dice.
He's just, like, doing this little weird inventory of shit he has and wandering around, eating to himself. And then who should walk in but Lanfear? Who, like, looks at him and she looks back. And she looks at him and he looks back and she's like, so you're naked? And he's like, oh shit.
He's like, oh no!
And
Sorry.
stumbles over to the bed and wraps himself in a blanket very modestly.
I like to think it's, like, full over the shoulders.
It
like,
implies that it is.
He's just,
like
fully
it starts to slip down his shoulders, and he's
cocooned.
like, no.
My modesty.
Yeah, my modesty. Men in Wheel of Time are very odd about being shirtless, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very weird modesty dynamic there.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so Lanfear comes in and is like, hello, it's me. Your worst nightmare. And he's like, okay, pretty
That
lady.
seems about right.
He's like, yeah, it's about standard. Are you Aes Sedai? And she's like, no, how dare you, bitch. And he's like, okay. Are you a
accepted?
novice? And she's like, no, and I hate you.
Yeah.
And also you look ugly. And he's like, yeah, I know that.
Can't be helped. I looked in the mirror.
Can't be. I saw myself in the mirror. I was like, who the fuck is that?
And then I immediately turned away.
The Crypt Keeper.
Ugh! I think about that line from Freaky Friday all the time.
Oh, that's a good line. Jamie Lee Curtis
That movie's
delivered
really
that
fun.
line so well. Oh, I know, it's such a good...
Oh, I looked like the Crypt Keeper.
Lanfear has a very weird conversation with Matt where she's
Yeah.
like, I don't even need to control you. I can just persuade you and you're going to do whatever I want because you want
Yeah.
glory and you don't really want to, like, engage in this stubborn battle of wills that I'm having with the others. And Matt's like, I have literally no idea what you're talking about. I'm just a hungry boy.
Yeah.
Like,
A hungry boy.
I'm just, like, a hungry, naked boy. And you're a pretty lady, and that, like, passed through my mind. But Matt, of course, also dismissed it quite easily. And then was just like, well, she's scary.
Yeah.
And it's just, like, really weird in the context of the fact that Lanfear never has another conversation with Matt.
Yeah.
So, like, what the fuck is the point of this one?
Yeah.
Robert Jordan was just like, I'm just gonna throw Lanfear in. What is she even doing in the White Tower? What's happening?
I know.
I have no idea.
Lanfear is made all the worse. Like, she's already objectively just the worst.
Yeah.
But she's made all the worse for how, like, nonsensical her plot is so much of the time.
Yeah, it's like...
Why are you here? What are you doing?
Yeah, like, where are you going? Who are you trying to manipulate? Because, like, Lanfear, as far as I know, has no fingers in Matt's, you know, proverbial pie. Like, nothing is going on that Lanfear has control over. Oh, wait, I lied. She does interact with him a little bit in book 4 and 5 when she's in disguise as that, like, dark friend lady.
Oh, yeah.
And then she comes back in book 5 and is like, who the fuck is Avienda? And Matt's like, not me. Out of here, bitch.
It's like, gotta imagine
Matt,
if
like,
it
road
was,
runners
though.
away.
In the, like, weird, very small section of my brain where I think it would be funny if Matt and Rand were in love, if Lanfear rolls up and is like, who are you fucking? And Rand's like...
This boy.
And
And
she's
Lanfear's like,
the naked boy.
the naked hungy boy? And Matt's like, hello? I filled out admirably, and I'm great at sucking dick. And we're all like, you would be.
Rand doesn't deserve you.
Yeah, Rand does not. That's
So-
my main issue with Rand/Matt.
So that's the reason why it's only, like, a very tiny atom of my brain
Yeah,
that just
just
thinks
for
it would
that
be
scene.
funny. Yeah.
just for that one scene.
Yeah.
And it's like, this scene is so funny that I want to preserve it. But it's like, is it worth the plot integrity? Not really. I have no idea what Lanfear is doing there. So in my edit of the Wheel of Time series, delete this.
Yeah.
Because it makes no sense.
Although in the Wheel of Time adaptation, if you're just with this hungy boy who's like, I vaguely remember these people from my hometown and here's their shiny rock and Rand, I think, can channel, that's fucked. And just like, the most beautiful woman in the world rolls in.
And you're like, hello?
Like, it would be the
White guy
funniest
blinking me.
opening.
It would be the funniest opening, and it, like, in that context, I think it could work.
Yeah, but hear it.
Because you could frame Lanfear to be like, I don't know, kind of just ducking into this room because she's, you know, avoiding someone or something.
Yeah.
Or it's kind of like, this is another thing on my to-do list, is to go threaten this weird boy. And then just, like, leave and never come back. And, like, that would kind of make sense as a television show. As the book, I'm just like, what?
Yeah. It's very weird, because their conversation is really bizarre. It's, like, really difficult to follow, even.
Yeah.
Because Matt's like, I'm confused, and she's like, shut up, I'm manipulating you.
Matt's just
and
like,
he's
what?
Like,
over and over.
Yeah.
And she's like, you're the worst. And he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
He's like, who the fuck?
He's like, glory? I do want that. But other than that, no idea what you're talking about.
It's like, and I want glory in a very specific way.
In a very deeply specific way. Anyway, then Lanfear leaves. And Matt's like, okay, well, that was weird. I'm just going to go back to my inventory. Good news, still have my pretty rock. Still have my dice. So really, I can just leave whenever.
Yeah.
And then Swan and Leanne come in and are like, I literally picture, you know that picture of the guy who's standing with a blanket cape and he's got like a box of like Captain Crunch or something?
No. And I have no idea what you're talking about.
Just a second, I have to show you.
Okay.
This one.
Oh.
I'm gonna post this on the Twitter. Matt
Please.
Holding his special rock.
Yeah, Swan rolls in.
Eating his beef. He's just like, hello?
Hello?
Anyway, Swan and Leanne are like, okay, why don't you sit down? And he's like, I don't need to sit down, and then almost faints.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, sit down. So he lies down corpse pose, still with his blanket tucked around him.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, well, let's chat. You've been very sick, and you can't leave because you'll be too hungry, and you'll starve. And he's like, what? The audacity.
Yeah.
I do love food, and my stomach is currently rumbling, but I am not hungry. And someone's like, oh my god, I assessed you so correctly.
Yeah.
She's like, I hate you. Her metaphor is like, he's like a bird that if you try to touch will just like fly away.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's such a perfect distillation of who Matt is as a character. He's just like, what? Someone trying to impede me in any way? I must go.
Yeah.
Whereas if someone's like, I don't know, here, Matt, we need to be rescued. He's like, fine, well, I'll stay then, I guess. I'll
rescue this kitten.
Absolute ninny.
From this puddle.
Yeah, and then he's like, so how, I heard my dad was here from Lanfear. And Swan's like, well, he was, and we sent him on his merry way. And Matt's like, okay, thanks for telling me. Not. And he's like, how's Rand? Haven't heard from him in a while. And Swan's like, he's fine. Leanne, go away. And Leanne goes away. And Swan's like, listen, you fuckhead.
Yeah.
You can't just casually talk about Rand in public anymore. And Matt's like, why is everything so complicated?
Yeah.
Why does it have to be like this? I'm just trying to get by. And she's like, here's the deal. That I have to tell you. You blew the horn of Valir, which means you're linked to it. Which means I could have let you die.
Yeah.
But I didn't. So now you have to do what I say. And Matt's like, I hate this.
It's super funny because she's like, you blew the horn of Valir. And Matt's like, the horn of what? I've never heard of her in my life.
And she's like, shut the fuck up.
I'll kill you. And Matt's like, yeah, I blew the horn of Valir.
And Matt's like, fine, yeah, I did. You caught me with your trickery.
Your Aes Sedai trickery.
With your japes.
God, he's so funny.
I know.
I just think he's the best.
And she's like, you remind me of my uncle, who just was like, fun-loving, loved to gamble, and then died heroically pulling children out of a burning house. Is that going to be you? And he's like, I've never even seen a fire. I don't know what you're talking about.
It's like, I hate children.
He's like, I'm not a hero. I just do the shit that has to be done. And she's like, that's literally the definition of a hero, you fuckhead.
And he's a moron.
Yeah, and he's like, okay, well, fine, fair.
Bring me more food.
Fine. Yeah, she's like, here, have some pie. And then he is like, fine, I'll just sit here while the pie gets cold thinking about how to get myself out of this. It's very interesting. He has a very violent... Like, if I found myself in a room being served meals for up to 5 people, just for me, and they were like, here, just stay in this room, have some books, I'd be like, this is my ideal weekend.
Yeah.
This is my ideal month, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I could spend 30 full days doing this. So I was like, you might have to hang out here for a year. And Matt's like, a year? And I'm like, a year? That's my dream.
Yeah, to be left alone for a year.
Yeah.
To just eat.
To just chill.
Wow.
It's so nice.
It's really ideal.
I know, and Matt's like, I have ADHD and really can't handle this.
Yeah.
What else is there to be said about Matt?
I think that's pretty much it. I mean, there's, again, he has a few callbacks to the Two Rivers where he's like, I wish they'd give me the dagger, the ruby off the dagger, so I could buy the biggest farm in the Two Rivers. And he's like, wait, I don't want that at all.
He's like, wait, what? I don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah, he's just like very confused. And
yeah, so it's just this interesting Matt trying to figure out what he is.
He has this thing at the very beginning where he's like, here are all my memories. And it's like talking to his dad and like a ship captain. And they're like Moiraine randomly by name. He remembers Moiraine by name.
Yeah.
And then, like, he's, like, a really beautiful woman. And I'm like, who are you talking about? Like, who do you mean?
Yeah, who's the really beautiful
A really
woman?
well-dressed man who talks to him in a paternalistic way. And I'm like, who are you talking about?
What is that?
Because just, I don't know. Very weird.
I know, it's very bizarre.
You enter with Matt into this very bizarre territory of, like, the idea of shared consciousness.
Yeah.
And that transcending, like, memories. And it's just, like, you also have that with Rand, but with Rand it's written to be a symptom of his insanity, and with Matt it's just like this casual thing.
Yeah, and it's really interesting, like, in book 3, if you've committed to a series for, I don't know, 2.25 books or wherever we are, 2 books and 200-something pages in, you're like, oh yeah, I'm starting to get, like, a sense of this world and these characters, and, like, throwing Matt in this very, like, unstable place, it's this really interesting mindset to hand your reader that's just like totally destabilized.
Yeah.
It really kind of throws you for a loop.
It throws you through a loop, and I also, like, I don't know, automatically cling to Matt.
Yeah.
I know I do that, like, as a reader now, but even my first read through, I just was kind of like, oh, here's kind of a point of view that, in a way, does feel more grounded than everyone else.
Yeah.
Because everyone else is so entrenched in this, like, specific form of fantasy.
Yeah.
Whereas Matt is kind of like, he's the one who has pop music, like, playing in his soundtrack, you know? He just sort of relates to us on a different level than
for
other
sure.
characters
He doesn't have a full orchestra behind him like Rand.
Yeah. It's just interesting.
He's a good boy.
And he just, like, has all of his motifs kind of laid out right here in these first 2 chapters. His whole trickster thing, his whole scavenger thing, his wealth thing, his addiction to gambling. It's just, like, all there.
Yeah.
As well as the idea that this is the situation Matt is going to be in almost nonstop, is that he's somewhere he doesn't want to be and he's trying to get out.
Yeah.
And it's so wild that keeps working for me.
Yeah, we had a poetry professor who would always tell us, like, your title needs to teach your reader how to read your poem. Mm-hmm. And, like, I've always thought that true of, like, the first point of view for a character. More, not always the case, but, like, more or less, it's, like, this is kind of, like, but, like, nowhere is that better than Matt, where it's just, like, this for point of view just, like, teaches you who Matt is in his entirety.
Everything you need to know about Matt.
Yeah, and so it's, like, really, and I guess it's not necessarily true, like, the first, I take it back, it doesn't have to be the case for the first point of view, but, like, at some point you do need to teach your reader, like, who this character is. Well, and Matt's just, like, boom.
Yeah.
Here I am, baby.
And it's interesting because from this point forward, Matt is the most static character.
Yeah.
Like, everyone talks about how Matt doesn't really change, and I'm like, that is technically true. Yeah. After book 3, there's a huge shift between books 1 and book 3 Matt, but after book 3, Matt's pretty much who he is.
Yeah.
He goes through a variety of traumas and really terrible things that happen to him, but he has already figured out how he handles his shit.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's gonna be how it is from all this way forward.
Yeah.
So anyway, I love Matt.
I know.
Just so good.
I know, he's so good.
Anyway, we'll be back next with some Edwin points of view. We read 3 chapters this week when we were only scheduled to read 2, so our website will update accordingly. I need to go through the reading schedule and maybe rework a few things, because it's just really wild, all these swaps between Matt and Edwin
Yeah.
points of view for a little while. So stay tuned for that. Housekeeping?
Housekeeping is that I would like to extend a formal apology to the writer, singer, songwriter, producer of our wonderful theme song because I've been saying her name incorrectly. It is Glenna, not Glyna. I apologize.
Both beautiful pronunciations.
Both beautiful.
But Glenna, what she prefers.
Yes, I apologize. I don't know why. I don't know how to read. It's a chronic problem, and I'm very sorry, but...
Thank you so much for our theme song. You're the best.
It's the best, and we love you.
Yeah.
Other than that, I think we're pretty square.
Yeah, we're pretty standard.
You can find us on the internet, Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, and our website. If you are loving the podcast and interested in helping us keep making it and making it better, we would love your support in any way that you can. If that just means tweeting about it or whatever, that's super great. Mm-hmm. If you have the means and are interested, you can support us on Patreon, where we have a ton of fun bonus content and weird bonus content.
Oh, God.
It's very bizarre. It's like the podcast, but much weirder somehow. Or if that's not working, we also have a Ko-fi, a coffee, whatever it's called, where you can do like a one-time support, $3 kind of thing.
Yeah.
So we basically only survive because of our Patreon supporters and our Ko-fi supporters. So thank you guys.
That is true. Do you want to sign us off? Do you have a sign off?
Yes, I do have another. It's another Texas anecdote, actually.
Ooh, okay, yeah. Give me more.
We went to get breakfast tacos because there's this taco truck that makes really famous, like, migas and migas poblanas, which I'm probably saying that incorrectly because I am white. But they were delicious. And so, like, they were, like, listed on this, like, Food Network article. So, of course, Brie found it, and we went there, and it was really it was really super good. But, like, all four of my friends ordered the same thing. We ordered their, like, two famous tacos because we wanted to try them. And we all ordered, like, one after another, and they all three got their tacos. And I was just, like, waiting, like, no big deal. And I had the number 21, and some other person had 12, and so they just got, like, mixed up. And so they, like... But we were sitting next to the, like, window, and so I heard some guy being like, oh, I had the wrong tacos. And the one's like, oh, amigas and amigas poblanas. And I was, like, popped up and was like, oh, that's actually mine. And she asked the guys, like, what are you looking for? And he was like, oh, like a sausage and egg. So they were, like, completely different tacos.
Yeah.
And he hands me one taco, and he's like, this is your taco. And I was like, okay, where's the other one? And he's like, oh, I ate it. And the woman is like, what? The woman helping us is like, what? And he's like, yeah, I ate it. And when I finished, I realized it was the wrong taco.
When I finished, I realized it was the wrong taco. How big were those tacos?
They were like decent sized breakfast tacos, but like amigas taco is like tortilla chips, like tomatoes, avocado, like nothing
so
similar to his sausage and egg taco.
Double digits of bites to figure out that it wasn't his taco.
That it wasn't his taco. And all my friends and I were just like, what's happening? And the poor sweet ladies in the taco truck were like, what?
Men are so entitled.
You ate her taco? He's like, yeah. I just ate it. And then I realized it was the wrong taco.
So then I brought it to your attention.
Yeah, it was... That was a really long explanation, but it was, like, that insane. And I was like, can I get my taco? And they were like, yes. Would you like them for free? And I was like, no, obviously not.
No, because I'm a millennial and a woman,
it's not
and
your
I
fault.
understand.
Men are the worst. I ate your taco.
I ate your taco? What a bastard.